welcome back to my channel. If you're new, welcome. My name is Mocha, and on the channel we talk about all things craft and crochet. And today we are here with I don't know if you want to call it a stitch tutorial, a pattern tutorial, or a marriage of two stitches tutorial. However you want to look at it, this is a tutorial. I kind of got this idea because I like the granny stitch and I like gingham, and I noticed that I never saw the two of them together and I didn't know why. So I googled and I looked, and I've seen like variations of like gingham and granny, but I've never seen like traditional granny and traditional gingham meshed together in the same pattern. So I decided, well, let's try it, see what it looks like. So that's how I came up with, this is the granny gingham granny. This is the gingham granny gingham. And they can be made in a variety of sizes. These are going to be serving mats, and they're roughly, I want to say 14 by 24 in size. And I also have these mini mug rugs that are literally mug rugs. You know, you can put a mug of coffee here and like some cookies on the other side or candy, what have you. And they're obviously smaller. I don't know their exact measurement. I'll put the measurement up on the screen somewhere after I measure them again. And today I'm going to show you how you can combine the granny and gingham into one completed piece. Hi, Editing Kim here. It occurred to me that I forgot to give you the dimensions for those pads, nor did I mention the yarn that I used. So for the small mug rugs, they measure 6 by 9 inches, and I used Hobie rainbow cotton for the primary colors, and Cotton King cotton for the neutral color, the white. It's a 1 weight yarn, but it acts more like a 2. But that just shows you how much I love it, because if you know me, I don't do, your girl does not do 1 and 2 weight yarns. So, but it's really good cotton. And the larger ones are measuring at 14 by 22. And for those I used Hayfield Soft Twist. It's a DK weight yarn. It's 90% acrylic, 10% merino wool. It calls for a 4mm hook. And I used the colors Scarlet, Gold, Ivory, and Claret. Hobie doesn't list colors, so I can't give you colors for the cotton. So I just want to add that information, because I realized I had forgotten to give it to you, and I want you to be fully informed. So, back to the tutorial. I'm making a smaller version of the serving pads that you saw at the earlier part of this video, mainly because we need some smaller ones, and just want to show you that you can modify this pattern for any length you want. If you want like to make something small like I'm about to make, you can do that. If you want to make a queen size Afghan out of this pattern, you can do that too. The only thing you need to know is that to successfully work this pattern, you have to have a foundation chain that is a multiple of 4 plus 1 extra chain. So you're going to do chain 4, chain 4, chain 4, chain 4 until you get the length you want, and then you have to add 1 more chain. So these are the colors I'm working with for this current project. These 3 are going to be my gingham. And then I'm adding this 4th color. Oh, camera, focus. Adding the 4th color for the granny. Focus, camera. There we go. So, in order to also work this pattern properly, you need 4 colors 3 primary, and then 1 neutral. So I'm still sticking with the holiday theme. I just kind of changed the colors up a little bit. So I'm going to, this first part, I'm going to do the Granny Gingham Granny, which means I'm going to start with the Granny stitches, transition to the Gingham stitches, and then back to the Granny stitches. So I am going to pick this color to start. And I am going to, well, first of all, I'm going to actually open the skein. Haha. Probably should have did this before I started filming. Would made a little more sense. But if you're not new here, you just know how I am. Okay, so. And as I've said, this stitch, this pattern, works with any yarn weight. It's just, it'll just affect the size. The weight that you use will affect the size of the piece. Okay, so I am going to do, like I said, I'm making a small version. So I'm doing 24 foundation chains, and then, well, 25 plus the 1. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, there's 24, and then 1 more is 25. That's my foundation chain. Now, to start the granny, some people actually do a foundation row of double crochet. I don't. I am just going to come to the 3rd chain from the hook. So there's 1, there's 2, there's the 3rd, and I'm going to stick a double crochet. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm going to put double crochet, but then I'm going to put 2 more. So that's 1, 2, 3. Then we're going to skip 2 chains. So there's 1 and 2. And we're going to put a cluster in that next chain. Then we're going to skip 2 again. 1, 2, and put a cluster of 3 double crochets in that next chain. And we're going to do this all the way across. So go ahead, pause the video, and we'll pick up when we're at the end of the foundation chain. Okay, so we're at the last 3 stitches of the foundation chain. We're going to skip 2, and we're going to put a double crochet in the last chain. So we're going to basically end the row the way we started it, because when we did the cluster in the 4th chain from the hook, what we did was we made ourselves a double crochet. So there's technically a double crochet here and then the first cluster. So we're starting and ending on the same way. Okay, so now we're going to chain 1, turn our work, and we're going to double crochet into the same chain that we just chained 1. So right here. So we're going to go right back into that, make a double crochet, and then we're going to skip this cluster, this first cluster, and do 3 double crochet in the next chain 2 space. And then we're going to do another cluster in the next chain 2 space. And we're going to do this all the way across the row. So go ahead. Well, you can pause the video. I'm just going to keep going because I'm doing a very short swatch. So, but if you need to pause the video to do your row, that's perfectly fine. Won't blame you a bit, because yours is probably going to be much longer than mine. Don't you see what I'm doing anyway? Good grief, I am bad at this. Okay, we're to the last chain 2 space. And going forward, these aren't going to be chain 2 spaces. They're just going to be the gaps between the granny stitches. And that's where you'll always put the next cluster of granny stitches, in the gap. Okay, now we're going to put a single crochet in the top of this. There was a chain 2 from the first row. So just kind of find the top of it and stick a double crochet in there. And again, just so we're starting the same way we finished the row. We started this one with double crochet, we ended with double crochet. Okay, but now we have to switch colors, so I really shouldn't have finished this per se. Let me set that down because I gotta get my neutral color. And keep in mind, when you're working this pattern, for this pattern, you do 2 rows of primary, a row of your neutral, then 2 more rows of your next primary color, and a row neutral, and you just keep going until you've used up all of your primary colors. Okay, so to change colors, I'm going to take that last out. Okay, let me just redo the whole double crochet so that you can see this. Okay, so you're going to start the double crochet, you're going to do the first yarn over and pull through. Pause, grab your new color, add it, okay, now we're going to chain 1, turn our work, we're going to double crochet where we just put that chain 1. And we're going to continue as we did before. Skip that cluster, 3 double crochets in the gap, and 3 double crochets in each gap going across. And again, if you need to pause the video, you go ahead and pause it and work your way across your row and then come back. I'm just going to keep going because, like I said, my row is short. Here's that last gap. And put a double crochet in the top of this double crochet. But don't finish it because you are changing colors. Now you're going to change to your next primary color. You can cut off the first one, but you're not going to use this again for a while. So you can cut that off and weave that in later. So you bring in your second primary color, which I'm going to use this. Again, could have prepped this earlier and didn't. Oh, this one's going to be a little bit stubborn. Oh, God. There we go. Had a bit of a yarn bar entanglement there. But I fixed it. So we're now adding the next primary color. Now we're gonna I did my I'm gonna do my chain 1 and return, and now I'm going to start this the same way I've started all the other rows. Double crochet in that first chain 1 space, tighten things down a little bit. Your sides are going to be messy in this, but that's okay because we're going to put a border on it so you won't see it. And now we're going to go back to putting 3 double crochets in each of these gaps. And this is what you're going to do with all your primary colors. You're going to do 2 rows of primary color, 1 row of neutral color, 2 rows of primary color, 1 row of neutral color. And it's going to continue with each of your colors until you use up all your primary colors. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this granny block off camera. and then I'll come back and we will start with the transition from the granny to the gingham. So go ahead and do your transition, finish your granny block, and we'll come back and do the transition. And as you can see, I finished my second primary color, added another transition of the neutral, and I did my third primary color, and then I did my next row of neutral. And now we are ready to do the transition from granny to gingham. This is where the magic starts, ladies and gentlemen. So, we're going to chain one. I'm going to turn our work. And as we've been doing, we're going to put one double crochet in that same chain one chain where we did the chain one and turned. And then we're going to put a double crochet in each of the clusters, the granny stitch clusters. There's two. Here's the third. Okay, but we're going to pause finishing it because we have to add in our granny color. Not granny, I'm sorry, gingham color. As I told you, I'm using the white, the berry, and the red. Get the green guy out of the way real quick. These are what I'm using for my gingham. So, I am now bringing in this color for my gingham block. And you change color like, you know, you always change colors. Except for, if you remember, when you're doing gingham, you carry the other color with you. So I've got the starting thread plus the white coming with me. And so I'm putting this first stitch of the new color in the top of this gingham cluster, of the first stitch of the gingham cluster. So it's right there. I'm sorry, I did that. Oops. See, I make mistakes. The first stitch. I didn't secure that properly either. Sorry, starting this can be a little weird, but once it's started, you're fine. The first stitch goes in the gap between the granny clusters. So let me. Okay, you see, here's one granny cluster right here. There's the next granny cluster. You're going to start your next gingham section in between them. So in between the two granny clusters, where you're going to put your first double crochet of the next granny block, or gingham block. Oh man. Then 3 double crochets, 1 in each of the top of the granny clusters below. And don't forget to carry your other thread or your other yarn with you. When you get to the 4th one, you're going to stop partway through the double crochet. Give your white a little bit of a tug to make sure it's secure and not like snagged up someplace. Now, The other thing you need to remember with when you're doing gingham is you want one thread to fall forward and one thread to fall backward. That keeps it from getting tangled. I normally do whichever one I start with, I put in the back. The one that I bring in, I bring to the front. So I'm bringing this one to the front, picking up the white, finishing, as so. Then I'm bringing this back so that I can carry it with me. Doing it again. The first stitch goes in the gap between the granny squares, or the granny stitches. And then you put one double crochet in the top of each of the granny clusters. Okay, we've got 3. That's the 4th one. Stop. Put that one to the back. Pick up this color again. Your second color again. Finish. Pick up this white so you can carry it with you. Give it a good tug. A bit of a tug. Not like tug it hard. Just enough to make sure that it's all coming with you. First double crochet goes in between the granny stitches. The granny clusters. I'm going to get that right one day. Next one, or the next 3 go into the 3 granny clusters from below. Bring this one forward. Pick up the white, give it a slight little tug. Bring this to the back so you can carry it with you. This is why it's kind of important. You don't have to know how to do the gingham and the granny stitches before you start this pattern, but it helps. I keep doing this. The gap is the first. See, I wrote this pattern and even I forget. The gap between the granny clusters is the first double crochet. Then the 3 in the granny clusters. I promise you, this is the hardest part. The transition can be a little tricky, but once you get the hang of it and you can see what you're doing, you can just go back to doing the pattern like you normally do it. In between the granny clusters. So if you need to pause to finish your row, go ahead. But since I'm making such a small little sample here, I'm just going to keep going. And I am at the end. 1, 2, 3. This is my 4th, so go ahead. So I finished that double crochet because I'm going to literally go back across with these same colors. So I'm going to chain 1. I'm going to turn my work. I'm going to grab this, make sure it comes around, because you still need to carry that with you. And now all I have to do is put double crochets on top of the ones I did in the previous row. So these 4 let's give that a little tug. Bring this forward. Pick this one up. Go in. Carry this one along. Again, it helps that if you already know how to do the gingham stitch. If you still need help learning how to do it, I do have a gingham tutorial on my channel. I will link to it in the description box, and you can go and watch it and familiarize yourself a little bit more with this stitch if you're not familiar with it. If you are familiar with it, at this point you're like, okay, Mocha, you can just stop talking now. I know what I'm doing. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this block off camera, and then I'll come back and I'll show you how to transition to the other color. Okay, we are now ready to make the transition to our other primary color in our gingham, which is going to be this red. And you'll see that I started the last stitch but didn't finish it because I want to carry this. I want to start this one. Oops. Not cooperating. There we go. Okay, so we've attached that. We're keeping the white. The burgundy we're just going to leave hanging for a moment. Let me turn to work. We're going to carry the white with us, so wrap it around so that you've got it going with you. And we're going to continue our gingham pattern with putting the second primary color on top of the neutral color. Hopefully you can see this. Put that one to the back, or I guess to the front, towards me, I should say. Give this one a quick tug. And now the neutral color is going to go on top of our first primary color. Put that one to the back. Pull this one up again. And we're just going to continue across this row and then do a second row. So I'm going to pause the video and we'll come back when we finished this row and then the second row. Okay, as you can see, I went ahead and I finished the last section of my gingham. So this is 2 more rows of my neutral color and my primary color number 1. Now, okay, full disclosure, My squares aren't looking square because of my stitch multiple that I used. It ends up with an odd number, with an even number of squares. And to make it an actual square, it should have been an odd number. I'll show you what I mean when we do the gingham to granny to gingham. And I may redo this with a different multiple so that you'll see what it looks like it's actually square. But for now, we're going to continue because the process is going to be the same regardless. So, we are now going to transition from gingham back to granny. So what we're going to do is, with our neutral color, we're going to chain one. We're going to turn our, you know what, before we do that, let me go ahead and cut off, this color. Leave yourself a nice long tail. Okay, now we're going to turn our work. We're going to put a double crochet in the top of the same stitch where we put that chain one. And then, in the middle of this gingham stitch, so right here, between 2 and 3, the second and the third double crochet, we're going to put a granny cluster. So that's 3 double crochets. That's 1, 2, 3. And then we're going to jump to the next gingham block, and between the second and the third double crochet, we're going to put a granny cluster. Jump to the next block, between the second and the third double crochet, a granny cluster. And you're going to do this all the way across your row. So if you need to pause, go ahead. But again, this is a small piece for me, so I'm just going to keep going. Okay, you get to the final block. You're going to put those 3 granny clusters. And then you're going to add 1 double crochet in the top of the last double crochet. Because if you remember, you start and finish a granny row with a double crochet. Okay, so that was the neutral color. I shouldn't have finished this because we are going to start with another of our primary colors. Now, you can do this in the order you want, but I like order, and so since I started mine with the red, went burgundy, and went green, I'm going to reverse that, and I'm going to do green, burgundy, and red. So I'm bringing back my green back in. Make 2. That's my chain 1 to turn. And I'm going to put a cluster in this first space right here. Yep. I'm sorry, I did that wrong. My bad. I need to put a double crochet after I just literally just had this told you guys about how we start these out. I forgot to do it. Goes there. And then you're going to put a cluster in between the clusters. And work your way across like you normally do with the granny stitch. And you just put 3 double crochets in between, in the gap between the clusters of the previous row. Again, if your row's longer than mine, feel free to pause and work across your row. Put a double crochet in the top of that last double crochet. Now we're going to incorporate the green back in because I'm going to work this, as I said, in reverse. Chain 1 to secure, and then my next chain 1 and turn. I'm going to put double crochet in the same stitch where we put the chain 1 and turn, and then in this gap between that cluster and this very messy double crochet, we're going to do a cluster of 3 double crochets. And then we're going to jump to the next space between clusters. And put another cluster. And again, if you need to pause the video in order to finish your row, go ahead. I'm just going to keep going because what I'm working with is smaller. Put clusters in between all the clusters. Like this, like that, like so. And now, I'm just going to put one in the top of that double crochet. Now we're going to do another row of that same color. So we're going to chain one, turn our work, double crochet in the top of the previous double crochet, place a double crochet cluster in the space directly after that first double crochet, and then in every space across the row, and you're literally just going to do this with all your primary colors, with your neutral color in between. So it's going to be 2 rows of this green, and then I'm going to do a row of the white, and then I'm going to do 2 rows of the burgundy, and then another row of the white, and then I'm going to do 2 rows of the red, and that's going to actually finish this pattern. So I'm going to go ahead and finish all of that off camera, and then when we come back, I will show you how you can deal with your ends, and we can work on the border. Editing me one more time. Okay, so part of this file got corrupted, and I lost a section between where I finished the first sample, which was the Granny Gingham Granny, and where I started the Gingham Granny Gingham. So what you're missing is the tutorial on how to start the gingham stitch. I think you should be able to figure it out basically from already doing the gingham in the first piece. But if it's still a struggle, I do still have that gingham tutorial on my website, on my channel. And again, I'm going to link to it in the description on this video. To refilm it would take hours that I really don't have. So that's why I'm leaving the video the way it is. I'm not happy about it. But I've got so much time invested in this video that I'm going to have to push through without that section. And hopefully what's in the video will help you with it. And if that's not enough help, the tutorial that's on my channel, that's that's called the Gingham Stitch, and I will link it, will help as well. Anyway, I just wanted to jump in and say that because it definitely jumps from one area to another, and I didn't want to leave you totally confused as to why. Okay, so back to the video. As you can see, I went ahead and did the entire gingham section that I'm going to need for the first part of this pattern. And again, if you don't know how to do the gingham stitch, I do have a tutorial on my channel, that you can watch and learn how to do it. Plus, there's plenty of other tutorials on how to learn the gingham stitch on YouTube. So if you don't want to watch mine, you can watch somebody else's. That's fine. No hate. I'm cool with that. But, so, now that we've got my microphone cord is in the way, it wants to be uncooperative, of course. Trying to move it. That's better. Okay, so, now that you've got the gingham portion set, which, as a reminder, it's going to be 2 rows of each color. And I did, as I talked about earlier, I went ahead and I made this swatch bigger so that we actually have the odd number so that you can actually see the squares. So if you look, if you count 1, 2, 3, 4, and you count down 1, 2, 3, it's a square. And over here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Yes, they overlap, but you're going to have that because this is a small swatch. The bigger the swatch, the more you're going to have individual squares. But I want you to see that, yes, it does actually square up. And at each of these blocks is 2 rows. Okay, that being said, we're now going to do the transition from the gingham to the granny. So in this case, I am going to use my white as my transition color from the gingham to the granny. You can use whichever color you want, so it's totally up to you. But since I'm using the white, and I was using the white as in this last part of the gingham, I just have to pull this up like this, and I'll chain 1 to secure it. Now I'm going to turn my work, and I'm going to put a double crochet in that same stitch where I just did the chain 1. Like so. And now, get the green out of the way. I don't need the green right now. Go. Alright, now, we're going to put the granny cluster, if you remember from when we did this on the last pattern, it goes between the 2nd and the 3rd double crochet. So it goes right in here. You see that? So you're going to put the cluster, 3 double crochets, in between the 2nd and the 3rd double crochet. So in other words, in the middle of the gingham block. And then we move over to the next gingham block, 3 double crochets in the middle of the gingham block. And again, in the middle of the gingham block, just keep working across the row, adding these granny clusters. This is the first row for the granny stitch section of your project. Okay, here's the last cluster for me anyway. If you had to pause this to work on your row, that's fine. Go ahead and pause and do your row. When you're done, come on back. And now for the last you're going to put a double crochet in the top of that last double crochet, because if you remember correctly with the granny, you start each end with a double crochet. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In this case, we have 7 because don't forget I made this one bigger than the last one. Okay, so now I shouldn't have finished that because this is my transition color. We are about to change colors, and I'm going to decide in what order I'm going to include these colors. And so I'm thinking I'm going to do I don't know. I'm gonna do the green. So, me adding the green. And if you're not familiar with how to do the granny stitch on a flat, you're only used to doing it in a round, there's tutorials for this as well. I don't have a tutorial on my channel, but I can work one up real quick if y'all want me to. If that's something you want to see, drop me a comment and I'll see what I can come up with, or I'll just do the tutorial. Okay, so now we're putting the first granny cluster in that space. You should know this should be old school by now because we just did this with the last project. And then you just put the 3 clusters in the spaces between. And we're just going to work across the row. Don't forget, this is going to be 2 rows of primary color and then one row of neutral color breaking it up. So I'm going to do 2 rows of green and then another row of white and then 2 rows of burgundy and then another row of white and then 2 rows of red and then another row of white. And at that point, we will be going back to our gingham. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this granny section, and then we can work on the transition back from granny to gingham, which you should be familiar with because we've done it before. But I want to make sure you know how to do it, so we will go through one more time. So you can go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and finish this off camera. And then we will come back and we will do the transition back from granny, from granny to gingham. Alright, so be right back. We finished the granny section. As you can see, I've got 2 rows of the green, a row of the white, 2 rows of the maroon, a row of the white, 2 rows of the red, and I did another row of the white. And now we are going to revert back to the gingham. So, to do that, I'm going to bring up my red again because we're going to go red, white for the first row, and then burgundy, red, and then red, white again. So as a refresher, here's how you start it. I'm going to change my color as soon as my yarn cooperates. There we go. Alright, let's turn it. And I didn't cut off the white because we're going to go red and white. So I'm just going to bring it up. I'm going to carry the white with me. going to put a double crochet in the same stitch where I put the chain 1 to turn. Okay, this too, so I can go right. And now I'm going to put a double crochet in the top of each of these granny clusters. So there's 1, there's 2, and there's the 3rd. I'm going to stop just prior to finishing it, drop the red, pick up the white, oh, I have to hang on, I have to go back because I did not carry that white through, and that's important because you don't want that sticking up. Let's try it again. Make sure I'm carrying the white through now. Alright, there it is. The one thing with the gingham stitch, you have to make sure that you've got all of your yarn where it needs to be, otherwise it'll look weird. Okay, here's the 3rd neck granny stitch, so you've got 4 total. Pause. Put that one to the front. Pull up the white. Finish. Bring the red back because you want to carry it through. And we're going to start this next one in the gap between the granny clusters. So it goes in that gap. That's a double crochet. And then double crochet into the top of the granny clusters once again. Okay. Put that one down, pull this one up, change the color, bring this one through with you, start in the gap, and double crochet into the top of the granny clusters. And you can do this all the way across your row. You should remember this from, we did this with the last pattern. So this should be familiar to you still. I'll finish this row with you. And then I'm going to go off camera and finish the gingham section. And then we shall come back and we shall work on the border. So, but for now, I'm just going to keep. See, I do this. This just shows you, even when you're the person that creates the pattern, you can sometimes just forget how to do it. In the gap. That's where the first one goes. So if you're doing this and you realize that you only have 3 stitches instead of the 4, it means you forgot to put the first one in the gap. You skipped over the gap and you went right for the granny cluster. That's probably where you went wrong. So just keep an eye on that. Because it's kind of a weird thing to do. It's not something that you do all the time, so, you know, you have to kind of be conscious about it. At least I do. The gap. In the gap. There we go. Mind the gap, as the Brits might say. Or do say, but, you know. They're just trying to keep you from falling into the gap. In this case, I'm trying to remind you to actually crochet into it. almost to the end of my row. Like I said, you can pause the video and finish the row, but like I said, when I finish this row, I'm going to go off camera and finish the gingham pattern. The gap, Kim, the gap. There you go. Because otherwise, this tutorial is going to be like 2 hours long. And that seems a little crazy. Switch colors. Into the gap. Haha. And keep in mind, you only have to remember the gap thing for the first row when you start. Because once you have the first row start of the transition done, it's going to be, you're going to be crocheting into the actual gingham stitches themselves. So, just have to remember for that one row. Just that one row. Okay, I'm starting the second pass of these gingham blocks. So I chained one, turned my work, carrying the other yarn over because I still need it. Go into this first double crochet. You have to be careful because it can be easy to miss. So make sure you're going into the first one. And you're carrying the other yarn through. And do that double crochet. And then just keep going across like you've been doing. And you'll just keep working your gingham pattern however you have it set up. Okay, I am going to go finish this off camera, and when I come back, we will start with the border. So, be back in a little bit. We're back. As you can see, I've got the completed piece done. And now we are going to start on the border. And I'm going to do the border in this green, because it's the color that seems to be represented the least in this, so I figured I would let it be the border. So the first thing we're going to do is we have to do a single crochet around this whole piece. So I'm just going to I'm just picking a corner, and I'm going to go ahead and attach my yarn. And you're going to put 4 to 6 double crochets in the corner. Depending on how big your gap is, you can decide. There's no pure science to this. You really just want to put a single crochet border around this so that you have something to work your actual border into. So I'm going to put 3 here in this corner, in this side of the corner. And I'm just going to work down the side 1 to 2 single crochets in each of these spaces. Making sure I am. I'm going to put 2 here. If it seems extremely gappy, then put 2. If it doesn't seem that gappy, you could probably get away with just 1. You just kind of gauge it. There's no real science to it. And yeah, it's going to look a little weird and kind of like a hot mess, but just trust the process and just keep putting your single crochets in. You know, 1 for tighter spaces, 2 in gappier ones. You know, like I said, just eyeball it. It'll be alright. But this is what we're doing with this section. So go ahead. I'm going to go off camera and finish this round of single crochet. And then once we have that done, we will go ahead and we will do the actual border. So I will see y'all in a few minutes. And again, just space them out as you can. Doesn't have to be perfect. The narrower parts, you can put 1 single crochet. The gappier, maybe 2. But just work on it. Don't stress over it. Just get it all the way around. And I'll be back in a minute. You see, we have finished the single crochet all the way around the piece. Now we're going to start the border. So to do that, you're going to insert your hook into a single crochet from the previous row. You're going to pull up a loop. You want this hook loop to be kind of high. Then you're going to slide them down to the base of your hook. You're going to twist your hook all the way around. And then you're going to yarn over. And you're going to pull through the 2 loops on your hook. Like that. The first few can be kind of tricky. But after a while, you'll get the hang of it, and it'll get looser. So pull up 2 loops, twist, pull through, get to the next one. Pull up, twist, pull through. You want to make sure you give yourself a lot of height on those loops, because it makes the pull through a little easier. And you want to go as far down on the neck as you can, because typically the base of the neck of a crochet hook is thicker than the top, so it gives you a little bit more room to play with. Of course, if you look at the hook I'm using, you don't really get much more thickness, but most hooks that's not the case. And we're just going to do this all the way around. So I'm going to go ahead and do this off camera, possibly selecting a different hook to make my life a little easier, because this one does not seem to want to cooperate today. Yeah, I'm definitely picking another hook, I think. But okay, I'm going to go off camera and continue working on this. And I'll come back with a finished piece and some concluding thoughts. So, I'll be back. Okay, I just wanted to pop back on here real quick. Let me get this out of the way. I went ahead and I upped my hook from a 3.5 to a 3.75, and as you can see, comparing the two hooks, you see how this hook is just straight. There's like no tapering to the neck. See how this neck is tapered? That makes a huge difference, because now going up a quarter hook size and with a tapered neck, see, is much easier to do. Now I have some performance anxiety because I know people are watching me do this. But it was going as a breeze before. Anyway, I just wanted to come on here and show you that it's really not a hard technique. It's just, you gotta use the right tools. So definitely try this. If you're having a problem with it, go up a quarter to a half a hook size and check and see if your hook has like a tapered neck, so that it's a little wider at its base than it is at the top, and that makes this process go a lot easier, as you can see. Anyway, carry on with your bordering, and as I said, I will be back with some finishing thoughts when I finish this border. And here is the finished piece. These are going to be mug rugs. I have its mate right here. So, it's upside down. Let's flip it over. There we go. Yes, these are going to be some mug rugs that I'm going to use during the holiday season. And you can see we've got the Gingham. Oh man, I need a nap. The Gingham Granny, and the Gingham Granny Gingham. So as you can see, these combos can be used both ways, so you can go back and forth as much as you want. You could make your Gingham as wide as you want, your Grannies as wide as you want, it doesn't matter. But now you know how to go back and forth between the two and make them work together. So, like I said, these are some mug rugs that I'm going to be using during the holiday season. I also have serving mats. So you've got the Gingham Granny Gingham serving mat. And the Granny Gingham Granny serving mat. You can use these for mats like this. You can use the smaller versions as mug rugs or napkins or whatever you want to use them for. You can expand this and make an Afghan. You can make scarves out of this combo. Possibilities are endless. Just whatever you decide you want to make with it, you should be able to pull it off. And if you do make stuff with it, go ahead and send me pictures on my Facebook group, Unapologetically Mocha Crochets and Crafts. I'll link it in the description, because I'd love to see what you're making with this combo. Editing me one more time, and for the final time, just wanted to remind y'all that there is a PDF version of this pattern that is available on my Buy Me a Coffee page. I will link to that in the description of this video. And it's the full pattern, there's pictures, and detailed instructions in the event that you want a print copy of this pattern and not just the video, because I know some people like video, some people don't. Some people prefer written patterns, some people don't. I'm just trying to cover all my bases for y'all. But yeah, it is paid. You have to pay for it, but it's like $5, and it's on my Buy Me a Coffee page. It's probably also going to be on my coffee page as well. If I do put it there, I'll link it there too, and probably on Ravelry. So if I include it in Ravelry, I'll have all the links where you can get the PDF version of this pattern linked in the description of this video. Just wanted to share that. Also, there's another special surprise that may be coming with this, but we'll talk about that some other time. Anyway, back to the ending of this video. And with that, I'm going to end this video. Thanks for watching. I hope it was helpful. If you have any comments, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. I make videos that are helpful. I hope they're helpful anyway. And we go live on Mondays and Wednesdays. Mondays is pretty much craft business talk. Wednesdays, let's say Mondays. Yeah, Mondays is craft business talk. Wednesdays is just our free-for-all kind of chat. We talk about all things craft, crochet, and life. So feel free to join us. If you haven't, also please hit that like button if this video was helpful to you. And if you aren't subscribed to my channel and you think you'd be interested in my content, please hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so that you know when I go live and when I post videos. And that's all I'm going to say. I'm going to go do some work on some stuff, probably block these because they need blocked. But I will talk to you soon. Thanks for being here. Bye.